Okay, so you watch my channel and you kind of got a basic interest in cap and ball revolvers, and you kind of want to figure out what should you get, like say it's your first one. Alright, let's do a little bit on history. It started like in the late 50s. Gun makers started making these replica guns because there was an interest in reenacting and everything, and up until the mid 50s, early 1950s, people who were into these old guns just shot old antique guns. Well, as they were getting older and there was more interest, the 50s, the Old West, cowboy pictures were popular, there was a demand. So different foreign manufacturers started making replica cap and ball revolvers along the Colt lines and everything else. And they were made in different countries. You know, Belgium made them, there were some European made ones, I'm not quite sure of all the different types or countries. But now here in 2021, the Italian gun makers are pretty much the people that do it, and there's two main companies that make these cap and ball revolvers, which is Uberti and Pieta right now. Now, if you go back in time, and what's strange about these guns is there are people who bought them. I was just talking to a guy at my gun club. He bought an 1860 pistol. It was on sale at Cabela's 30 years ago. He seen it and just impulse bought it, thought it would be a cool thing to learn how to shoot. He bought the gun, brought it home, set it on a shelf in a closet, and that's where it sat for 30 years. So the bizarre thing is, you will find these guns in brand new in-a-box condition, but they could have been made by a company that has long been out of business under a different name, different strange variation of these guns that are not available today, but can be brand new. And also the quality of these guns varies widely from who made them and at what time. The only thing I can say now is if you purchase a gun that was made here in the past few years, say 2 or 3 years, I have a couple of them here. This one here, I believe, was made this year, 21. Okay, this is an Uberti Colt 1848. Okay, the quality is probably a little bit better if you go with a newer gun. So if you go on like the gun broker or something and they're not buying it from an actual retailer like Dixie Gun Works, you're going to get a brand new gun, but you're going to pay a percentage higher. Okay, you can get the guns for less money buying them from another source. Okay, but you got to kind of know what you're buying. And beware in auctions and stuff for people, oh, never fired, which probably could be never fired, but much like this 1860, which was manufactured in 1988, there were some quality issues and some modifications that had to be done. So all you guys out there try to make this simple, you got the two makers. Everyone says that Uberti's quality, fit and finish, plus the fact on all their Colt style guns, the ram has the recessed concave thing for a Colt style conical bullet. Where the Pieta, like this, I mean, is nice in one way. It's a newer one, the frame's cut out, it'll take the conical bullet without modifying the frame on this Pieta, but you have to change the ram or machine it out because it's set up for a round ball and would crush the nose of a pointed conical Colt style bullet. Okay? So, if you're looking for brand name, go with Uberti. So if you're going to buy a brand new, I think the person asked me, I want to buy an 1860, which one should I get? Which maker should I get? Okay, go with the Uberti first. And Pieta, you know, if that's all you got, don't worry about it, but Uberti is probably going to be the best maker. And a lot of people say the fit of the grips and everything, like you see here, this grip is a little high and not made it upright. where, you know, they took the time to fit and finish on the Uberti is much nicer, okay? So that is true. Now, what type of revolver? We're going to talk about brass frame guns, because you can get a brass frame on just about all of these. What it is a brass frame, though it may not be historically correct, makes a more economical pistol. So, brass frame, I stay away from. Why? Because, yes, the gun costs less, but the thing is, if you have a brass frame gun, what happens is as you shoot it, this is a steel cylinder, little teeth on the back. Every time you fire the gun, especially if you're using a full charge load, what it does is it sets back into the soft brass, and over time them ratchets will indent the frame. Okay, then you'll get excessive play in the gun. It wears out. Now if you take, say, right, this is a steel frame. Say you get an 1860 and 44 caliber with a brass frame. I shoot anywhere from a 25 to 30 grain load of powder with a round ball with this. If you went and took a brass frame gun, fired 15 to 18 grains of powder with a filler, probably the gun won't wear out that quick. There's a lot of people that have brass frame guns and use them, and it's just you're going to be shooting very light loads in them. If you shoot very light loads in them and take care of them, they will function, and you can participate and enjoy in the fun of this hobby. Much like these Remington 1858s. They do make these with a brass frame, and I seen a guy was saying that he fired a full 30 grains or something, or 35 grains, and he actually bent the frame, had to go bend it the hell back. So that's kind of why I always say stay away from them, but you can if you want to, and if you're careful, and if you go slow and treat them right, you can shoot a brass frame gun and have some fun with it without breaking the bank. Now, different types of guns. All right, so now we clarified which maker, current maker, is good. Now, and that's where you can find all these unusual guns that are no longer made. This is one here, Pieta, okay? Nobody currently is manufacturing this model of Colt Patterson, okay? And this is really not a gun for a beginner, because you can't touch a repro Colt Patterson. You know, you're looking at $1,000, all right, for a repro. I don't even know what originals cost. The repros and the tools. Nobody's currently manufacturing them. You cannot really get spare parts for them. So this is kind of a unique gun. Unless you're really, really into firing an original gun that's over 170-year-old design like this, for the history end of it, this is probably not a gun you should be thinking about. Okay, this one here. So we're going to take that off the table. So like I said, get a historic gun, the price is going to be higher. Now when you go buy these, Dixie Gun Works, Midway sells them, I think Sportsman's Warehouse has them, and there's a guy that does a video that tells you where to get them. And basically you can shop around and find a modern brand new gun like this, usually for $40, $50 less than Dixie Gun Works. When Dixie Gun Works has them in stock, they're a first-rate company to deal with, but you're going to pay them the full retail price, no matter what. But customer service is excellent. They answer your questions. They're extremely reputable people to deal with. All right? So, say we're going to skip over getting an older gun. So we're going to get a new one. Now, what model should you buy? Well, it depends. For ease of operation and that, if you go, like I said, with the Patterson, this gun has to be disassembled, loaded, fired, disassembled. Now you go to the next one, the Walker. Now, the Walker is a very interesting gun, okay? And if you want to be Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, whatever, show everybody who's a man, the Walker's a pistol to get, but this is a copy of the Walker, pretty close copy. So all the design flaws are still in here. This ram will come loose. The little cutout where the caps fall off. You get cap jams. You get all kinds of other things with it. But that is how the Walker was. And also this mainspring in here is strange where you got to clamp it and tap it off. It is a royal pain to disassemble this weapon. The Dragoons until the second or third model where they changed the mainspring. And the Whitneyville pistol and that weird mainspring is in this gun here. So unless you really like the Walker for the mystique, as a first-time buyer to a cap and ball, I would stay away from the older models because they do get jams. You do have to fool with them more, and they're not as user-friendly, okay? This Pieta 1851, like I said, it's a newer one. It's cut out. I didn't have to modify it or nothing, but I shot this gun and using the conical bullets and that, and paper cartridges, nothing but cap jams and that. You got to change the nipples. This had some small burrs in it, had to be cleaned up. And that's going to be, you're going to find that on all of these. Quality control ain't the best on any of these, no matter who made them or for what time period. Some of the older ones are a lot worse, okay? And I think the Italians make these with nipples. They're made in a way to where you can use 10 or 11s. It kind of depends. They don't make them very precise. And you can like take 11s and pinch them and get them to work on there, or 10s will fit on there. Some of these guns, 10s have to be, you have to squeeze the cap to get it on the nipple to stay tight. And I think they're deliberately made that way, okay, to make it easier to put just about any type of cap you have on there. So, irregardless of model you get, you're going to have to probably replace the nipples to keep your, with at least with a Colt, for cap jams and all that other stuff. And all of them need to be cleaned up a little, okay, like this little one here, like I said, brand new. It didn't function quite well right out of the box. There were some burrs on the hand, the spring I had to clean it up, clean some burrs out internally. I've never even fired this. But if you listen and go to the different guys that are really into this, like the Duelist 1953, he tells you it's just an inherent flaw with these, and if you do fool with these, be prepared. Now somebody emailed me and got one also that the mainspring is weak, and when you fire this, what happens and what causes your cap jams is the back pressure. And on this particular model, it's because the mainspring is weak. The back pressure will throw the caps down into the action and jam them. Okay, and this is something that's inherent on all the Colts, no matter what model you get. Even if you go to the 1861, they all have the same Colt design flaws with two-part frame pistols with the wedge holding them together, and that all of these Colts, no matter who made them, are going to have that problem, aren't they? So, which most people, when you go to competitions and that, like Era's Gone went to a competition, and what was out on the range was mostly these solid frame guns, like this Remington 1858, which is very popular. This here is a Rogers and Spencer's, and I bought this gun quite a few years ago, and the reason I got this is they were manufactured, or the office that sold these to the government was in my hometown, and the gun says right on there, Utica, New York, okay? That's why I got this revolver. Now these are no longer made, and these demand a premium. Something like this, or the Star, several companies made star revolvers, single and double action guns. Those guns were a bit more complicated and more expensive back in the day. 30 years ago when I bought this, I believe the retail price on this was close to $300, where this gun here you could pick up for a little over $200. Okay, they're both made about the late 80s, early 90s. So these more complex weapons were more expensive, and now these demand like a $700 premium. Same with the stars, $700-800. But they're well-made guns, they're accurate guns, and a lot of the problems, you got to remember, this gun was designed right in 1864, towards the end of the Civil War, is when the government bought a shipment of these. So this is a more advanced design pistol. This thing doesn't have problems with cap jams, and if there is a cap jam of any type, it's usually the cap will flail out, and when you rotate around you can just flick it with your finger, or you pull hard enough back on the hammer, it'll knock the cap off. So the problem of jamming or anything, the sights on this as is are good. It's right on there. It doesn't shoot high like a lot of the Colts do. Most of these Colts, like this one here, has a very low rear sight or front sight. In the rear sight you got to widen the notch, and they do have a tendency to shoot high. Okay, so that's something you got to think about. These here are no longer made and carry a heavy premium, so they're around, people like them, but I'm going to take this one off the table also. Okay, so that leaves us with solid frame guns. About the only design out there made, and is extremely popular, is the Remington 1858. Now this gun, they're both made by Pietta. I'm not quite sure if Uberti makes them. They may. But the problem with this is the way this design is compared to the original, where the screw for the ram and that is. These here are a reliable gun, they're good, but trying to shoot them with a conical bullet could be problematic. Okay? But if you are a beginner and you just want to get into this and say start off with the round ball or something, these can still be, you can still get these at a reasonable price. They're about a $300 gun or a little less, depending who you buy them from, I believe. I don't know what the current price is on them. But the solid frame is more modern. The way the sights are, these do not shoot high. I've shot both of these. The sights are right on to begin with. Okay. They have notches in there so you can load the 6 cylinders and lock it in a notch, carry it safely. Okay. So the safety features are there. Now on the 2 models I got, this one was fine as is. This one I had to clean up the sear notch and the hand, a little bit of filing work. These are a little bit more difficult to disassemble than a Colt. Like I said, once you get to the 1851s with the Colts, the way the mainspring in that is in there, this is a pretty basic gun. There's not a lot of parts. There's a ton of videos that show you how to take it apart, put it back together. It's an easy gun to work on if you have any mechanical skills whatsoever. Anything from the 1851 down. Okay, even this 1848 has a type of mainspring in there. It's a pretty simple gun to work on. These here, like right out of the box, if they're good, you really don't have to disassemble them. Just clean them well and they'll work pretty damn good. Okay, like I said, usually the sights are on. They don't shoot high, at least not the 2 that I have. Those are the only ones I got. They work well because the frame is enclosed. Okay, you very rarely, if ever, get a cap jam. Okay, and these take number 10s And the only thing about the Remingtons is the way the cutout is here. Capping it can be a problem. Plus, the nipples are not straight in. They're kind of like at an angle. So you'd have to get used to it. But they're a pretty good gun. They're made in both 44. These two are 44. You can get something like this in a 36 caliber if you like. I never got one in a 36 caliber. But they're available, brass frame or the steel frame. So if you're a beginner and you don't want a lot of hassles, and also getting these guns apart is a little bit easier than a Colt. There's no wedge. You just go to half cock, slide it out, and make sure you got it. Give it a twist, and the cylinder comes out. Sorry about that. So the reason I would recommend if you're a beginner with the Remington 58 is it's easier to come apart. It's easier to put a cylinder conversion in there if that's something you think you might want to try later or whatever. The Remington 1858, even though it's by Pieta, there's some shortcomings if you're going to use a conical bullet. But other than that, it's probably a better design. It's more trouble-free. It's not quite exact historically, but if you want to get into a cap and ball revolver and start off and you really don't know a lot about them, the Remington 1853 is probably what you should get and start off with. They're solid guns, the design is good, you know, the sights as is are right on. And like I said, the way they're designed with the solid frame, that cap jam problem and all that other stuff, like it's inherent on all of the Colts, no matter what, is not there. So you probably wouldn't have to change out nipples or do anything. And like I said, maybe like this one here, I had to tune it up a little and clean it up, but this one here functioned trouble-free, and I've shot it quite frequently with no problems. So that's kind of comes with the territory with these guns. So that's my advice on it. You know, Cabela's used to sell these. Dixie Gun Works does sell them. And like I said, you can shop around and probably find one for a little bit less money from another retailer. And they are currently being manufactured. So the Colt, or the Remington 1858, probably for guys that really, you're not into it or new, will probably be the best bet. Okay, and like I said, you can get these in steel frame, you can find some with a brass frame, but I would stick with the steel frame, especially if you're going to put a cartridge conversion in there. You know, that's the way to go. So that's kind of my advice and spiel on it. You know, depending on, you know, a lot of it depends on your skill level, how much money you want to spend, how much you're really going to really get into it, okay? Or if you're looking for something, just like I said, being historically correct, this is the gun Wild Bill Hickok like, and there are variations there engraved and commemoratives. You might want to get something like that, maybe shoot it a little bit and just have it for something to look at. Or if you want to show them who's the man, there's always the Walker, a great gun. So that's my take on it. I hope that helps. I hope that answers some questions people had. You know, like I said, the Colts, you know, you're going to run into little problems and glitches with them because that's just how Colts are. You know, if you want to go with the least amount of trouble or whatever, if that's your intent, then go with the Remington. You know, like I said, there's people who get extra cylinders or used to when these things are reasonable, and then load the cylinders and just swap them out. And I think Clint Eastwood did a movie where he did that with one of these. So that's my buyer's advice for the beginner. All right.